Hi, Patrick. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, thank you. Can I start by asking you, Pat, how did you get into this industry? Is this something you've always wanted to do, or did you catch this along the journey?
That's a good question. I've always loved to cook. I've been cooking since I was 7 years old. I was always passionate about cooking, just watching my grandmothers, my aunts, my mother cook, and it was something that I always thought I was good at, but never really took seriously until about 2 or 3 years ago. Um, I mostly dedicated my life to working in finance and banking. And during the pandemic, unfortunately, I lost my job. And I kind of thought to myself, do I really want to spend the rest of my life working for somebody else, or do I want to kind of take my own initiative, take my own path, and kind of, do what I feel I'm passionate about? So one day I just started looking at Instagram and I just started seeing people on Instagram just cooking their meals and presenting them. And I said to myself, this sounds like something that I could do, and I just started uploading my meals on social media. I started getting a little bit of traction and buzz after that. And then soon thereafter, I decided, this is what I want to do full time. And I dedicated myself to building a brand on social media, growing a catering business, and now becoming an influencer in the culinary industry.
That's amazing. You've grown your channel so quickly. You've got over 70,000 followers. How did you get to do that?
Honestly, to this day, I don't even know myself. I would definitely say that I'm blessed and humbled to actually have so many followers in such a short amount of time. Um, Honestly, I would attribute it all to just being genuine with people, to helping others, to giving people content that they actually relate to, and just something different. One of the things that I've always stressed about as far as being a creator was to do something that no one else is doing. I wanted to showcase a different medium for African American creators. I always feel that we're always put in some type of box that, there's only certain types of food that we can make. But I
Right.
wanted to show that, there are creators out there who can make recipes from scratch, who can make fine dining recipes on social media. And even though I have no culinary training whatsoever and never really worked in a restaurant, I wanted to showcase the initiative that I had to learn, to grow, and to kind of build my platform off of that.
Right. That's amazing. That sounds really good. So what has actually stand you
Thank you.
out from others doing the same thing? Because I really know that I have a few celebrity chefs who would tell you you have to do this to get to this place. You have to do, what actually stands you out from the rest of the chefs in the industry?
I would say that about 99% of my recipes are made from scratch, which kind of contrasts to a lot of the recipes that you see online that are like the quick
Mm.
recipes. And again, there's nothing wrong with those types of recipes. I support them because myself as a chef, when I come home after a long day of catering or cooking, I want to just throw something on quick. But I think that it's the fact that I show people how easy it is to make a simple recipe from scratch, from making a basic sauce to making your own bread. I feel like a lot of people are intimidated by that, but I
Yeah.
give people step-by-step routines on how to actually take your ingredients and turn it into something magical and not have to feel like, there's only certain people who can make those recipes.
Right. And coming from a finance background to where you are right now, would you say that you're in a better place right now? Or do you have any regrets ever leaving the banking industry to where you are right now?
No, no regrets whatsoever. I honestly feel like this is probably the happiest I've been, not only just in my career, but in my life, because I've always enjoyed banking, but I always felt like I wasn't passionate about it. Like I
Right.
was good at what I did and I always managed to rise up in the ranks, but it wasn't something that I felt like in 20 years' time I could see myself doing. As a chef and as a creator, even if I'm spending hours in the kitchen or even if I'm spending hours editing videos, at the end of the day, I love what I do. I love the fact that I'm able to engage with people just simply by doing something that I love, which is cooking. I love the fact that people come to me and ask me for tips and advice on how to enhance a meal or how to make their video stand out. And it brings a smile to my face to see that people are growing and people are learning just simply by having conversations with me about their brands.
Trust me, Pat, when I look at your channel, I'm always very hungry. Like, really? I've got so many delicacies out there. Like, how do I even do this? Even as a woman, I can't really find myself really sitting in the kitchen and cooking like every time. But when I see your channel, I say, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. I love what I see there. It just makes me really hungry all the time. Can you share with us, please? Have you had any low moments whilst in this journey? Have you had a time where you think, oh God, I think I'm not really catching the vibes? Do I do something else? Have you ever had such moments?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to say around January or February of 2021. No, wait, 2022. Earlier this year, I had a moment where my videos weren't really getting as much traction as I thought they would. Um, Even though I am enjoying what I do as a creator, there were moments where I kind of felt low about my brand. I felt that maybe I wasn't meant to do this. And it was just a small feeling. And I did have, without giving out any names, a few people who would reach out to me and say, maybe this isn't something that you should be doing. They would criticize my work immensely. But I thought to myself, if you're meant to be a bigger creator, there's going to be obstacles that you have to overcome. There's going to be people who are going to be in your comments and your DMs telling you that, your food looks terrible or that you could do something a lot better. And it was at that moment that I realized you have to ignore that little voice in your head that's telling you you can't do this. You have to ignore any
True.
type of negativity because no matter how far you come, no matter how much money you make, no matter how high your brand elevates, there's always going to be people that are going to try to bring you down. And that's all they're there for. They're just to bring you down and try to get a rise out of you and get a reaction. And I've learned over time, as good as I am, there's going to be people that are going to criticize me. And I just simply ignore them. I simply keep it pushing. Yeah, you have to, because otherwise you're going to get yourself caught up in those moments where you're arguing back and forth over people who are going to get in the way of you making money and get in the way of you elevating to that next level. And so after that moment, I just decided, you know what? I'm too good for the negativity. I'm just going to keep myself remaining positive, keep myself humble. And from there on, it just became nothing but success for me.
Yeah, you can't please anybody, can you?
Unfortunately, especially on social media, everybody's a critic.
Everybody is. Everybody is. How important is collaboration for you in this space?
It's definitely major. It's definitely major for me to collaborate, and I've always been somebody from day one. I didn't care if you had a million followers. I don't care if you have 10 followers. I'm willing to collaborate and learn and grow with just about anybody on this platform in this industry. And I've learned over time that a lot of great chefs don't really have the tens and thousands of followers. Like there are some chefs that I've followed and I've networked with and built relationships with that have like 100 or 200 followers because they're not on social media as much, but they have years and years of industry experience. They've taught me so much about how to hone my knife skills, about the different types of techniques that I can use. And it's been a tremendous help for me because as someone who's never been to culinary school or worked in a restaurant, a lot of my knowledge and expertise comes from these chefs. It comes from looking at YouTube and Googling and just kind of reading cookbooks and studying, just to kind of build my own craft. So it definitely does help to network and to kind of put yourself out there to build these relationships with people, regardless of the follower count. I love to collaborate with people, even to this day. I'll be more than happy to, take somebody who has a lower following than me and say, hey, you know what? I like what you're doing. I like the kind of content that you create and I like the message that you bring. Let's kind of see if we can work together and build off of that. And anybody can tell you that I'm more than willing to work with anybody as long as it does make sense for both of us.
Absolutely. But I do know that it could be very frustrating for some people actually to grow their customer base, and most especially when you want to collaborate with people. A lot of people are thinking, how do I even get to this place? How do I approach the big brands? How do I tell them this is what I do? Come, let's do something together. What have you learned in this process? How did you actually, for yourself, how did you approach these people? How do you make yourself feel that you can do it? If you can share this with the audience, I'm sure that a lot of people will want to understand what is the path, what is the process for you like when you want to approach bigger brands. Do you have any feelings of If I approach these guys, are they going to turn me down? Are they going to accept me? How do you go through this process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There are quite a few things that I would recommend as far as reaching out to brands, whether they're big or small. The first thing that I always tell people to do, and this is something that I feel a lot of creators, bigger creators, should let smaller creators know about, is create a media kit. And essentially, what a media kit is, it's a virtual resume that features your name, of course, a little biography of like who you are and what your brand is, your follower count on all your social media platforms, your insights such as like how many followers are you engaging, your demographics, how often are your followers active, and if you have any brands that you work with, you definitely want to put that as well. And if you never actually engage with the brand, it's always good to just reach out. I started out with reaching out to some of the smaller brands because I felt like I wanted to build my following organically, and I didn't want to, reach out to a big brand. Let's say, for example, Pepsi. They're a really notorious big brand, but at the time I had a small following. It wouldn't make sense for either one of us to even try to build a deal because how would they be able to, reach out their products to people if I had a smaller platform? So always keep that in mind that it's not that these brands don't want to reach out to you. It's just that it has to make business sense on both ends for the brands to kind of work with you. And just going on with that, I definitely would say networking is a big key factor when it comes to working with these brands. Go on their pages and, respond to their comments when they post pictures, like their pictures. If you feel necessary, if you feel like you have something that they're willing to look at, tag them. I know people kind of say that it's kind of pointless to tag people in videos when they have there's millions and millions of people out there. Yeah, there's like millions of people out there that are like looking at the videos and they can only look at but so many. But somebody's watching your content. Just continue to tag them. Engage, as I mentioned before, it's not just about tagging people on your own page and having people interact on your own page. Go to different brands' pages and, comment on their work, comment on their videos and their posts. Um, whether they're a big brand or small brand, you definitely want to make sure that engagement is there. So this way they can kind of see that you're active and actually want to know a little bit more about their brand. And one thing I actually just recently learned myself over the past couple of months is a lot of these brands are on LinkedIn as well. So create yourself a LinkedIn profile and reach out to some of these brands. Just going back to the Pepsi example, as I mentioned earlier, you could actually search the social media manager on Pepsi on LinkedIn and just introduce yourself that way. You may get a response, you may not get a response, but the honest thing is, you never know until you try. Um, I would also say, as far as engaging with brands, kind of understand the trends in your industry and be strategic about it. There's a lot of food trends out there that creators kind of gravitate towards when it comes to making recipes, but you want to make sure that you're not, focusing your brand on just doing trendy content because brands want to see that you're actually creating content that could organically, gravitate towards your audience. And if they see that you're doing trending content, all the time, what makes your brand different from anybody else out there. You want to make sure while you can do trending content, kind of balance it a bit. Make sure you do your own organic content that gravitates towards people. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you're original as much as you possibly can, especially on social media when it's so easy to kind of gravitate towards the trends and kind of get stuck in that mentality.
Yeah.
One thing that I stress completely when it comes to being on social media, I know it's kind of hard for some people, but I stress it nonetheless, be professional. As I mentioned earlier, there are going to be moments where people are going to troll you and people are going to make negative comments. And it's so easy as, humans to react to that, to comment back and to be negative. But working in finance for so long and working in corporate America, specifically with a lot of these brands and, just being in customer service, if let's say for example if you're the representative of Nike and you're looking at my content to say, hey, what could we do with Pat to kind of bring a brand deal, and I'm on my comments cursing people out, is that somebody that you're going to want representing your brand? Not at all, because you want somebody. Yeah, like brands like Nike are like really, really huge brands, and I'm pretty sure they get comments all the time, whether it's from social issues or whether it's just people making general comments in general about the product. And they don't want people who are going to just respond negatively and fight back with trolls all the time. They want people who can put their products out there, who can represent the brand in the most professional way possible. So always keep that in mind that brands are looking at your content, whether they're selecting you for their brands or not. So just keep that professionalism in mind. And last but not least, as I mentioned before, just build relationships. Have conversations with people, whether they're small creators or whether they're big creators. As I mentioned before about the smaller platforms that have like smaller followers, a lot of those smaller platforms and followers too are actually people who represent these brands, but they usually go under smaller accounts just to kind of scope what's on social media and to also because they're not on social media a lot on their own accounts, they use these smaller platforms to kind of observe what other creators are doing. So just making sure that you're keeping yourself professional, networking, building on relationships, and just being true to yourself. And those are my ways that I've actually became successful when it comes to reaching out to brands and building my platform with them.
Have you had any brand refuse you before? Have you approached a brand where they tell you, unfortunately, they can't take you on?
I haven't had any brands that have told me no, but I've had brands that have told me before, we'll keep in touch if we have any other opportunities. And I've never heard back from them again.
Well, how did you take
And
that?
I just kind of felt like, it is what it is, like
Yeah,
I'm not for everybody, and I definitely understand that. And just because they tell me no now doesn't mean that months from now they'll tell me the exact same thing. Because, as with anything, it's all about timing and all about the right moment. Maybe at
true.
that time as a creator, while I thought I was ready for the brand and ready for myself to kind of get in that space, maybe the brand didn't think I was ready. Maybe the universe didn't think I was ready. But, even if they tell me no, or if they tell me, now is not the right time, that's fine. I'll still support the brand. I'll still look for ways, down the line to build a relationship. And eventually, a brand will reach out to me and say, hey, you know what? Now's the more perfect time for us to reach. There's one brand that I actually reached out to early on as a creator. I'm trying to think of the name. I want to say it was King Arthur Flour. I reached out to them to kind of do a brand deal, and I heard nothing from them for months. And I just kept it as, okay, well, one day they'll reach out to me. I'll just continue to grow my platform. I'll continue to build and develop myself. And then shortly after that, they reached out to me to do one of my first brand deals on TikTok. And it was just a matter of time before, we actually made something happen.
Amazing, amazing. So, would you, in comparison to where you're coming from, being a banker in the past, has that had any positive influence in your current situation?
It has. For one, working in finance, I've managed to build relationships with different types of clientele, and that's kind of helped with my own social media platform as far as developing personal relationships and building with different creators and brands. Um, of course, when you work as a creator, a lot of these brands, when they do pay you, you don't really get your money taxed, which is something I feel like a lot of creators don't know. So working in finance, you have to kind of learn, money management and, different things like that. Um,
Right.
and also working in customer service, you got to learn how to talk to people. You got to learn how to give people quality over quantity sometimes. You also have to learn how to have conversations with people of different types, and as I mentioned before, you're not always going to please everybody, but you have to make sure you stick true to your brand, which is something that I've learned working in finance in corporate America.
Talking about negotiation, just going back a bit to what you mentioned, negotiation. I know that a lot of people would say that it's always best when you're collaborating with brands not to start off by taking free jobs until you get to a point where you can charge. Is this the same with you? Or do you think you,
It
you
is.
don't have to put
It,
yourself down, just go ahead and do your negotiation right from the beginning?
that's a really good question. I honestly feel like it depends on where you stand as a creator. When I first started getting brand deals, I didn't really have that big of a following. So my philosophy was that even if I was just getting a free product, it's still a way to get myself exposure and to get my name out there. And as I started taking these smaller brand deals where I was just being paid with products, and my platform started to grow, it gave me the sense and the ability to know that, if I'm able to reach people with my products and my platform at a certain level, then I should be compensated for it. And there are some creators out there who I've talked to on a daily basis who have bigger followings than I have, who don't even get like the non-paid brand deals, and they come to me all the time and ask this very same question. And I feel as if you're somebody who has a smaller platform, you should start out with getting the smaller deals, whether it's a low paying amount or whether they're just giving a product, because it does give you that exposure. But if you do have a following where if you do have a platform where you have a large following and you have a lot of engagement, you definitely should try to at least negotiate some type of price.
Yeah, because I was going to say that when you have big following, then it becomes collaboration in that case because you're benefiting from each other. It's not one-sided anymore. So it's easy for them to charge,
Right.
isn't it?
It is. It's a lot easier for them to charge. And a lot of times, just from speaking from experience, a lot of these brands they have the money to pay you. A lot of the times they try to give you the lowest possible amount just to see if that's something that you're willing to accept. But if you are willing to negotiate or you do feel comfortable negotiating, make sure you have the numbers to kind of back that up. Make sure that you can say, hey, um, just throwing a random number out there. You want to pay me $400 for this video. Um, what I can do for you is and negotiate a larger price, but also show them why you're worth that larger price. Show them that, from November to December, my follower count went from 60,000 to 70,000. Each of my videos have about 120 to 150,000 views per video. My comments are constantly engaged. This is my demographic. I know that with these numbers, I can get your brand not only just visibility, but people to actually purchase a product. And if you have that to back it up, they'll be more than willing to negotiate, if the numbers do make sense. But again, if you do feel comfortable with doing the negotiating, I would just recommend that you just make sure that you have the numbers and the facts to kind of back it up so these brands can kind of meet you halfway.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that comment. I'm actually learning too. Yeah. So, what would you say has been your highest moment in this journey? What has been an exceptional achievement? Would you like to share one of those?
I actually have two recipes. I have multiple recipes that have been featured online, but two recipes were actually featured on a website called thefeedfeed.com for a 24 karat gold s'mores recipe that I did. And I actually was sponsored and featured in a summer barbecue recipe edition with the company Pepsid. Um, I've been grateful for their support from the moment they, took me on, and they actually helped to get me more exposure because they featured one of my barbecue recipes. And as somebody who's only been in this industry for 2 years, and
Yeah,
to be able to actually have published featured recipes, that means a lot to me.
it does. I'm really proud of you. I'm proud of that
Thank you.
achievement. Yes. So, what is the next level for you in this industry?
Um, I do have a few things that I do have in store for everybody. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to disclose that right now for, privacy
Okay.
reasons and NDAs, but
Yeah.
just keep in mind there's a lot of great things coming for me. Um, I would like to eventually, start a food truck next year. I do have a lot of people who've told me, they would love to try my recipes and to kind of get the Cooking with Pat Lee experience. So I am in the process of trying to, get myself a food truck and get myself out there, not just in my own home state, but, try to go cross country. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Okay, we'll be looking out for that in the UK. So, are you looking to have your own recipes, especially for yourself, for the brand? Are you trying to create a brand for yourself for food recipes?
I I am. A good majority of my recipes are my own. They're recipes that I've actually tested and tried. for months on end because I want to make sure that not only are they unique to me, but also that anybody who makes them, they get the same taste all across the board.
Okay.
Um, it's a bit of a challenge, being that, a lot of the funding for my recipes and my brand comes from me. So I definitely do want to make sure that once, when these recipes come to that, they're unique and that they're also consistent across the board. But if anybody is interested in getting any of my recipes that I have on my page, I do give the full recipes completely to my subscribers. So if you're on Instagram and you want to get, the full details to my recipes from the ingredients to the directions, just make sure you subscribe to my page.
Should we be looking forward to you having a book then at some point?
Oh yeah, definitely. I am looking to get a physical cookbook out by next year too.
I would personally have to buy one because I'm sure it's going to help me. So, for people looking to start this, looking to go into cooking, especially as a chef, what would you say to them? How would you advise for them to start?
The first thing, and this just goes kind of back to what you said, what makes my platform unique, and I encourage all of your followers to do this if they want to be chefs, is just reach out to me on DM. I'm not somebody who, just because I have a large platform, that I ignore people on my DMs. I talk to people on a regular basis and just give frequent advice when it comes to cooking and how to build your platform. And that goes back into the networking and building relationships piece that I mentioned before. So if you are somebody out there who wants to be a chef and who wants to learn how to grow your platform, just simply send me a message and we'll start building off of that. One other thing that I would suggest if you're looking to start becoming a social media influencer and a chef is simply just start. A lot of people kind of get in their heads about, posting their first video or posting their first picture because they worry about the lighting, they worry about the presentation, they worry if it's going to get any visibility. But the hardest hurdle is just getting started. So as long as you post that first video, and then when you get to that point, do your first voiceover, it's all good from there. Like, just make sure you get started. Like, that's the most important part.
Yeah, I always say to people, you just need to put it out there. Just start. That's the point. Just start. The presentation is always good as well. It's an addition because it actually gets you that good professionalism. However, I always say, I agree with what you said. It's always good to just start from somewhere. Don't wait until you have everything ready. Don't wait until you have all the money in the world. Just start somewhere and you can build it from there. So I agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, like even when I first started, I didn't have a ring light. I didn't have any type of lighting. I didn't have a good quality camera. I just started creating content and posting videos, and that's the only way that you learn what you need to grow as a social media creator is by getting yourself out there. And then once you see that first video, you can make adjustments from there. But as you said, starting is key. That's where you have to kind of get yourself in there, is just by posting your content.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us today, Pa. We'll bring it to a close.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my conversation with you, and it's been so inspiring, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope this isn't the last time, we speak. I definitely had a pleasure talking to you and, reaching out to your audience. And again, I love building relationships. So anytime you want to have a conversation, just let me know. I'm more than happy to do it.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Thank you, and have a good time. We will speak again soon. And we'll come to an end of this program. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining and have a good evening. Bye now.
You too. Thanks for having me.